B-boy. From the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East Coast to the West, B-boys worldwide. We supposed to be blessed, still a B-boy.
This week, we're heading to LA to talk about a group who took hip hop by storm over 30 years ago. Although most known for their love of weed, there's so much more than that. With the distinctive voice of Be Real, the steady presence of Sen Dog, and the dark beats by DJ Muggs, Cypress Hill have fans in and outside of the hip-hop world. Top 10 Cypress Hill songs tonight. Joining me, as always, Raven Hunter, Surreal the MC, and Riplak. Y'all ready for some Cypress? All right, I will start it off. And man, I changed this today. I had another song on my number 10 spot and I kept changing it. And this is what I ended up with. And I'm going to 1995's Temples of Boom. And I'm going with the song Throw Your Set in the Air.
Yeah.
So there's actually a really dope remix of Throw Your Hands in the Air with the Def Squad and MC8s on it. But I'm going with the original. I like just a little bit more. It's such a simple but very catchy hook. And the haunting beat by Muggs, Be Real talking about, gang banging. Plus, this is the song that started the whole Ice Cube beef. They claim Cube heard this song and stole the hook from this and made it into his song Friday. And this is a song that kind of started off the whole feud between Cube and Cypress. But love this beat. Throw your set in the air. Just some good old mid-90s gangster rap. So that's my number 10. Raven, what's yours?
I went to 1996's unreleased and revamped for the Boom Biddy Bye Bye with the Fugees remix. That beat I always loved that beat. I was never the hugest Fuji fan, to be honest, but I just always loved this song, and that beat, I just fucking love that beat.
That is one of Muggs' best beats. I freaking love that remix, and that'll be talked about again. No, that's a good pick. Number 10. Surreal, what's yours?
I went with the Till Death Do Us Part album, Latin Thugs. I really think it's, they have a couple songs that they there was one on the Greatest Hits too, and then a couple on the newer albums, and they did more of the up tempo Latin percussion, reggaeton type beats, and had some guest appearances and stuff. And it kind of broke away from the sound that they're known for, like the Black Sabbath, DJ Muggs beats. And I kind of like it. I think it's like underrated, Latin Thugs.
Yeah, their newer stuff is got a different vibe to it. And I think they're using more like live instruments than just samples like
Muggs congos and bongos, and even some of the horns and stuff. Yeah.
All right, Riplak, what is number 10 on your list?
I went with the self-titled, and I went with the song Pigs. Yes. Because back when I started writing, I used to listen to all those like anti-cop songs, and it inspired one of my songs off my first album. So yeah, I know there's a lot of different narrative, and they wanted a storytelling, and there's obviously good ones and bad ones. I kind of talk about that. So
no, that was on my honorable mentions. That's a classic Cypress Hill. What a way to start that album, that debut album. So I can cross that off to honorables, which brings us to number 9. And I'm taking us to the year 2G, New Millennium's Skull and Bones. And I'm going with the big single off of this, Rap Superstar. Now, I was disappointed when this album came out. I didn't really like this album all that much, but I did love this song. And this was the first single. They also did Rock Superstar, where the hook, they just changed rap to rock and then had like heavy guitars in it. But I'm going with the rap one. And, everyone on this panel can relate, some of the things he's saying. Yeah, we weren't Cypress Hill level, but just industry stuff. It sounds fun. But when you're in the grind, there's more than meets the eye. So that, I think, always kind of spoke to me. A great hook. And the breakdowns with Eminem and Noriega talking, I think fit perfectly. They really work good. The music industry isn't all fun. So I had to go with Rap Superstar off of Skull and Bones. That's my number 9. Raven, what is yours?
I went to 1998 for the album 4, which surprisingly, once we started revisiting this, I forgot just how much I really love 4. The sound of 4, it was like yeah, it was a complete flip from Temples of Boom, which some people didn't like Temples of Boom as much as, you know, Black Sunday and the self-titled. I don't think Temples of Boom did quite as well either. But 4, I love the way there's a lot of uppity and just gangster sounding shit on that album. And I started off, I went with From the Window of My Room. I love the story in that song, and I love that fucking beat.
After the self-titled debut, I think 4 is my second favorite Cypress album. And you don't hear enough about it. It kind of gets glossed over in Cypress history. I love that record. I love 4. And it still holds up today. So no, that's a good one. I'm glad I couldn't fit too much from that album on, so I'm glad it's getting some love. Surreal, what's number 9 on your list?
I'm having illusions off Temples of Boom, Illusions. That was one of the first songs where Eric Bobo played in the studio, and they did the remix and stuff. It's just a great song. It's a cool video too. It's just, you know, it's kind of got that dark feel.
And it does there is a remix on the revamped, the unreleased and revamped, right, of Illusions?
There's
The
one, and then
Q-Tip
there's
remix.
the 12-inch of Illusions, I think, has a
Or is
Q-Tip
that
remix,
with,
if I remember right too.
I can picture a
Yeah.
remix or hear a remix. Yeah, that Temples of Boom album really had a distinct vibe. I mean, the vibe of that album is, I always thought, looked like what it would be like on that guy in the cover, just a dark, dreary. That's probably what that guy was hearing, if that makes any sense. I might just be talking nonsense though. So we'll move on. Number 9, Riplak, what's yours?
Break 'em off something. You know, I like those shit talking songs. And so it was tougher for me to kind of get like the last few on this list because I was so set on my first like 6 or 7 top ones. So you're all gonna get kind of the idea because they're mostly from the same album. But yeah, break 'em off something for sure.
We are to number 8, and I'm going to 1993, their most famous album, at least commercially, Black Sunday. And I'm going with the song every kid in our age range knows, Insane in the Brain. For the importance and significance alone, I had to make sure this fit on my list because this got non-hip hop heads into Cypress Hill. You had skater kids bumping this, you had jocks bumping this, you had all these different groups who would play this record. And at the same time, the hip hop heads and the street, they never lost respect for them. That's tough, be that universal. The people who usually crossed over, you know, they'd get called soft. It's tough to keep the respect of the streets and the sound of the streets. It wasn't a poppy song. And catchy song, another classic DJ Muggs beat. And this came out the year after Jump Around, year after. And I always kind of thought this was a similar vibe. Like this was almost like a Jump Around part 2. I always felt like they went hand in hand, like they were twins or something. A simple but memorable video. Everybody knows the song, Insane in the Membrane. Number 8, Raven, what do you got?
I was on Black Sunday, but I went with I Want to Get High. Just I fucking love that vibe. I can still smoke to that fucking song, you know. I still smoke to that fucking song. So, you know, I'm 41 and I still smoke to the same music. But yeah, I love that feel of that song.
It is a good intro. You're right. And it's definitely a Get High song, obviously the title, but just the vibe of it. All right, number 8, Surreal.
Boom, 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 boom. Cock the Hammer off Black Sunday and the Last Action Hero soundtrack too.
Oh,
that bass that has the weather noises at the beginning. I mean, that's still cold. You put that in it that's one of those songs that takes you where it wants to take you. Cock the Hammer. It's time for action.
Even though this was their most commercially successful album, it doesn't mean it's not dope. I mean, this was full of really great songs. Black Sunday.
You guys know that on the later pressings of Black Sunday that Think I'm Going Crazy, that sample is taken off of Insane in the Brain?
I did know that. I think you and I talked about that once. It must have not gotten cleared.
The original pressing's a little bit long, a few seconds longer in length, the length of the album.
And it's just that little sample, because that was on the video.
Yeah,
too.
we didn't talk about it because we were talking about that Too Short. The Ghetto has 2 versions. The Ghetto,
just a little bit. Yeah. All right, number 8, Riplak. What do you got?
A to the K.
Nice.
Not you. the song. Yeah, my brother's initials are AK, so yeah, he played that shit a lot. I love that song.
That was on my honorable mentions for obvious reasons. But even beyond that, it's a dope song. A to the motherfucking K, homeboy.
That was on the White Men Can't Jump second. They put a 2 CD set out. The White Men Can't Rap. Is that what it was called?
You're right. I do know what you're talking about.
That, and then it had like college boys, and
it was called White Men Can't Rap. Yep. I completely forgot about that. I completely forgot about that. That's funny. No, that's a great song. All right, we are to number 7. And I'm going to their most underrated album, in my humble opinion, 2001 Stone Raiders. So much better than you remember is how I would describe this album. But I'm going with the song Chronologic. I love these type of songs, these reminiscing songs. Be Real goes through their whole history from the first album all the way up to this one. I'm just a sucker for reminiscing songs. They always get me. Features Corrupt on the hook. Like I said, love these songs, behind the scenes look from the artist. And I wanted to put Southland Killers at this spot from this album, but the dopest part about that song is King T and Ren. So I felt it was more important to put this on because it's, Be Real. But Stone Raiders.
Enough cash, so now I stack guns. That's one of my favorite lines in rap ever.
Yeah.
I was like, that's some cocky shit. I love it.
People aren't familiar, check out Stone Raiders. Like I said, it's better than you remember. So that was my number 7, Chronologic. What about you, Raven?
Black Sunday, Insane in the Brain. I had to get it on here for every obvious reason. You know what I mean? Right. That could arguably be way higher just because of the way it hit, like you already talked about. But they had to make the list somewhere, and I couldn't have 5 tracks from the same album on here, so I had to move it around anyway.
All right, number 7, Surreal.
Friday soundtrack. Roll it up, light it up, smoke it up, inhale, exhale. Yeah, that was just the beat alone. That song's and like these other songs, Cock the Hammer and A to the K. This one was exclusively just on that soundtrack. It's not on any of their albums, to my knowledge.
No, I actually know the story to this, and this ties into the beef. Cube asked him to be on the Friday soundtrack, so he went to the studio to pick up this song. While he was picking up this song, Muggs is like, "You want to hear some things off the new album?" And that's when Cube first heard "Throw Your Set in the Air." Yeah. It was picking up this song for the Friday soundtrack, and so it's all kind of intertwined. But we've talked about the Friday soundtrack on probably 10 episodes. What an amazing soundtrack, right? I mean,
we have
it's such a bangers. Whew, full of bangers. All right, we are on number 7. What do you got, Riplak?
All right, we haven't been talking about beats much, but this one I fucking love the beat. When the shit goes down, and yes. I feel really bad because I feel like I should put this one way higher, but when I think of like Cypress Hill, that's not the first one that comes to my head over some of these other ones. So that's the only reason it made it down there. But that beat is crazy. I love the song too.
That was on my honorable mentions too, which brings us to 6. And I'm going to 1996's, let's see here. It's stuck. Unreleased and revamped. The remix album, Boom Biddy Bye Bye, Fugees remix. First thing I have in capital letters, such a dope beat. It's amazing. I almost wanted to be higher just because of that. But Be Real and Wyclef go back and forth rapping. And Lauren does some harmonizing and some overdubs of, she'll do an overdub here and there of Wyclef's verse, but it works. And this is one of the best unreleased remix type albums, maybe up there with bootlegs and B-sides by Cube. These type of albums can be hit or miss a lot. I know the Fugees had one, Nas has had one, but this one's really dope. And Boom Biddy Bye Bye is just amazing. So Fugees remix, that's my number 6. What about you, Raven?
I went back to 1998's 4, and I went with Checkmate. I love the beat and the whole vibe of Checkmate. It's just one of those, just another banger. Like I said, 4, I think has become my favorite Cypress Hill album. I listened to it way more than any of their other albums when I was going back through these lists. And I just kept finding shit that I wanted to add from that album. So I had to start really just peeling there out. Stop listening to that album before my whole list is just four. But yeah, Checkmate, just such a dope vibe.
And they ride that beat really well. It's a faster type beat, and they ride that perfectly. Both of them do. I think we're on number 6, right? Surreal, you're up.
Duke of Earl. Hand on the pump from self-titled. Yeah. Video too. The car. Love it.
Another honorable mentions. So many great ones off that first record. 6, Riplak. What's
I
on
got
your
the
list?
same thing. I got
Hand
the
on the
same
pump.
Hand on the pump.
Nice.
I love that song.
It is
goes-
super dope.
That's sick. Yeah, I don't have to say much about that one.
No, and since we're talking about their first album, let's just go right into my number 5 off of 1991's self-titled, and it's not Hand on the Pump. But this song is the most underrated Cypress Hill song of all time. I love it. I loved it when it came out. I still love it. Nobody talks about it. Funky Feel One.
Yeah.
I just always, for some reason, it doesn't even really have a Cypress Hill vibe. I just always love this record. And there's this really dope breakdown to begin verse 2, where just one of the elements of the beat goes on for like, I don't know, maybe 8 bars. And then he brings it back in. And then on the third verse, Be Real and Dog go back and forth, Run DMC style, just one line each, one line each, one line each. Just little things like that. Muggs should be talked about more as one of the top producers in hip hop history. I mean, it's those little things that really put you above everyone else. And amazing scratching in the hook. Such a good song. I just love the Funky Feel One, even though most people don't. Number 5, Raven, what do you got?
Number 5, self-titled Hand on the Pump. It's already been talked about twice, but it's I love the vibe and the feel and the beat of that song.
Yeah, I'm the only one without Hand on the Pump. At least it made my honorable mentions, but that is a dope song. I definitely agree with that. 5, Surreal. What do you got?
Temples of Boom, Lakotes, another one with Eric Bobo on the percussion. And it's just that beat is ridiculous. And they actually did a sequel to it, Locos, on Elephants on Acid with Sick Jackin', and that beat's sick too. That's the video where they're robbing the bank.
Oh,
both those songs, I mean, I'm kind of cheating doing 2 songs, but both those songs are like bangers. It's the Lakotes. Come on. Oh man, it makes you want to punch my computer.
Don't until the end of the podcast, then you
Okay,
can punch it. All right, number 5, Riplak. What made you list?
I wanna get high. I always love smoking songs. I could take years off smoking and still just love it.
If you love weed smoking songs, Cypress Hill is obviously the group for you. All right, number 4, and I'm going to take us back to 1995's Temples of Boom. There's that guy feeling the vibe I told you about. And I'm going with No Rest for the Wicked, the Ice Cube diss track. It's such a dope diss track. And this, I think, is the best out of any of the Cube disses. Yeah, the Common one was probably more witty, but it was a more friendly beat. Cam did an all right job with Whoop Whoop. NWA took their shots. But I think Cypress Hill are the only people to lyrically kill Cube. A haunting beat, which is perfect for a diss track, not lighthearted at all. And it's a great mix between witty lines and just pure anger gangster vibe. I think they destroyed Cube on this song, unlike anybody ever did before or after. And that's a big accomplishment when you're making good, you're winning feuds against Ice Cube on diss records. They did this, and then when West Side Connection did King of the Hill, Cypress Hill came back with another diss using that beat from King of the Hill, which is a dope one too, but it was never released on an album. I think it's just called Ice Cube
Napster
Killer.
was real big. LimeWire and Napster had it.
Yeah, I think it was just called Ice Cube Killer. But No Rest for the Wicked. I fucking love this song. Great diss track. So that's my number 4. What is yours, Raven?
My number 4, also from 3 Temples of Boom, 3 Set in the Air. Just a dope ass song. I love that fucking beat. Temples of Boom's vibe, it was, like you said, it had a darker feel. And I think he talked about that in Chronologic, that he was in a weird fucking place when he worked on that album too. Mm-hmm. And I love that album. That was, I was kind of that fucking emo kid that got into rap and shit. So I like that vibe of that album.
It definitely has that distinct vibe, like we were talking about. All right, number 4, Surreal.
Number 4, Latin Lingo. And I see it behind it, the 12-inch to it. The remix is actually my favorite Latin Lingo, but
no, that's a good one. I'm glad that got love. That was on an honorable mention, just missed out. Riplak, number 4.
I ain't going out like that. And
I ain't going out.
I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, that beat too. I love that beat too. But like, I'm sure you notice I go back and forth between the shit talking songs and the weed songs. But what can I say? That's why I listened to them back then so much, because they got a good mix.
And they go from that I want to get high vibe right to I ain't going out like that. It's like the vibe is so different, but it works. I ain't going out like that is like something I'd listen to if I'm on my way to a fight, just get you hyped. That's the type of track it is.
And then calm down with I want to get high.
And then you get high after, yeah.
Once you're done fighting.
Yeah. Even if you got your ass beat or you beat ass, you might as well have a blunt, right? So they got you covered. So top 3 we got here fast. We'll keep it going. 1998's 4 album. And I'm going with Checkmate. Like you said, Raven, such a dope song. The faster beat actually works perfect. They ride the beat perfectly, like I said. And when you think Cypress, you don't necessarily think faster type beats. You think of the slower ones. But both of them really wrote it perfectly. Again, a simple but effective hook, which they are really good at. And have I said yet how dope Muggs is as a producer? And Be Real truly is an MC. I mean, he shows it on this. This is a good showcase that he's not one-dimensional. So Checkmate, always loved that song. That was my number 3. What about you, Raymond?
Illusions from Three Temples of Boom. Again, it's just that vibe, that real just depressing fucking dark vibe. I love that shit.
It is, you're right. That is kind of a depressing album. Like, I don't know. It's the guy on the cover.
I don't smile a lot, listening to the album. It don't make me happy.
yeah, I ain't laughing. Yeah, it ain't like listening to the ICP or something.
Or even Black Sunday. There's a lot of smiling in that album, but there ain't much smiling in Illusions.
No,
or in Temple
of Boom. No, it's not a real happy, friendly record at all. Number 3, Surreal. What was yours?
I Love You, Mary Jane. Hits from the Bong from Black Sunday. That's when you see live clips and it's just I saw him in Chicago House of Blues a few years back too, and it's just a good song live. It's a good song on the album. It's a feel good song.
That one was at 10 for a while this past week. And that was the one weed song that almost cracked it. And it's a shorter song, but I don't know. There's just something about it. How he's going in depth describing just taking a hit from a bong. But no, I'm glad that made someone's list because I really wanted it to make mine, but it didn't. So number 3, Riplak, what's yours?
I got Rock Superstar. I mean, it pretty much described when I was coming in. It was kind of my early days of hip hop. So I don't know. Just seeing like the ups and downs and everything made me like really attached to that song.
That's how I related to it and why. Well, Rap Superstar made my list, not Rock Superstar. I don't think the lyrics were any different. It was just a harder hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they had Chino from Deftones and Everlast.
And Everlast doing the talking instead of Eminem and Noriega.
Yeah, and that's another thing. We've talked about this before in past roundtables that like it was good for them to have a big hit like that, just to kind of like draw attention to them. Because like, nobody was talking about most stuff they were doing after a certain point.
Right. No,
I mean, a lot of hip hop heads were in like underground and all that, but that's another good thing about that song.
That is true. And I appreciate what they tried to do with that record, because I think the second disc was all like more rock songs, heavy guitar rock songs, and the first disc was hip hop. It didn't hit with me, but at least I think they were trying to, please both fans. And I mean,
in the Omaha market, the college rock station played the rock version, and then the clubs played the rap. But what they were trying to do kind of worked here. I remember that being
right
here in Baltimore, kind of different place.
Well, that is an interesting concept. The 2 versions of the same songs, because you're getting 2 different groups. So we are to number 2, and I'm going to 1993's Black Sunday. When I started this, I didn't think so many from this would have made it. Not because I didn't like it, but I thought, oh, that's their big commercial album. But I'm going with I Ain't Going Out Like That. This is my favorite beat by Muggs all time, period. So gangster, so hardcore. I hear it and I just get an instant mean mug on my face. I mean, the cue blip and everything, I'm ready to brawl. But one thing I always wondered, even back in 93, and I still don't know the answer, but the song is called I Ain't Going Out Like That. But in the hook, he says, we ain't going out like that. They never say I in the song, even though it's titled I. If I ever meet Be Real and have a heart to heart, that's my number one question. Is what why? Is that a mistake or is there something deeper meaning? And I want to talk about the video. The whole video is just them digging a grave in a cemetery and getting a body out of the trunk that's all like wrapped up in a garbage bag and taped up and shit. Just everything I love about Cypress Hill. I Ain't Going Out Like That. Number 2, Raven, what's yours?
I went back to 4 in 1998. Like I said, I really didn't expect to like that album so much, but Looking Through the Eyes of a Pig, I fucking love that song.
Oh yeah.
Jesus.
So dope.
Yeah, that's a good
my
one.
favorite song on that album for sure. Like that story is just ridiculous. The beat's ridiculous. I like the little breakdown interludes with the police on the little walkie-talkies and shit. It's just a dope ass song.
It is. It was an honorable mention. That is a really good storytelling. Really good storytelling. And I even almost like how it ends by just fading him out. He's still rapping. It is that he hasn't finished a verse. He hasn't.
Just like nobody cares at this
No,
point. Like,
right.
we've
It
heard
is
enough.
fade him
Yeah,
out while he's rapping.
That's right. They did do that.
Yeah, it really didn't end. But great story. I'm glad that made it because that was flirting with number 10 for me. Awesome. Number 2, Surreal. What's yours?
Self-titled, "Oh, I Could Just Kill a Man." The break, the bridge, in the videos got Cube and Tribe, and I don't know, everything they did with that was like the right thing to do at the right time. The 91 or whatever. It was just like because I actually my runner-up was Funky Phil one because there was a double A side. I remember having the single
Right.
from like Sam Goody or whatever, and that's still one of like How I Could Just Kill a Man is one of those songs I could listen to this day on repeat.
It finally got brought up. I had a feeling it'd be high on a lot of people's lists. I mean,
yeah, that was gonna make mine. That was definitely gonna make mine, but it didn't.
Such a great fucking song. And I may talk about it again later on. Riplak, what's your number 2?
Mine is, we've talked about it. It's Insane in the Membrane. I had to put it on there. Honestly, I don't know if it was the area I was from or whatever, but that was the song though. That was like that was like the first one everyone really gravitated to.
Oh, yeah, I was that
At
way
least
everywhere.
I don't know. I know it was pretty big, but yeah.
It was on The Simpsons.
Right. Oh, it was massive. I mean, like
Yeah.
I said, even everyone was listening to it, no matter what kind of music. I remember being just bugged out, like the heavy metal kids were listening to Cypress Hill, or the skater kids sometimes would have crossover, but even like what you'd call the preppy kids were listening to Black Sunday, and I'm like, what fucking world am I in? But everyone loved it, and for obvious reasons. It's great. Insane in the Membrane, which brings us all the way to the beginning. Told what my number 1 was, but that's from the self-titled debut, How I Could Just Kill a Man. This was the first single off their first album, and I think it's their best song they've ever done. Obviously, it's my number 1. It's so iconic, just as classic as it gets for 1991 hip-hop. Dope Muggs beat. Be Real brings it. And I want to talk about Be Real's voice because this isn't his normal speaking voice, his rapping voice. And the story was he rapped and they said his voice didn't sound good. So he came up with this high-pitched voice that he's now known for. And on paper, that doesn't seem like, all right, guys, I'm gonna rap in this high-pitched, weird-ass voice. To not only do that, but then know it would hit, it's amazing. It's just interesting to me. And like you said, Surreal, that breakdown between the second and third verse, god damn, it's done so perfectly. Like I said, the little things, Muggs, the little things. Classic video. They're in Times Square, like you said. Cube is there.
Yeah,
Q-tips
got that
back
whole East
there.
Coast, West Coast.
And you know what's interesting is Tim Dog is in the background. And I even did some Google search because I'm like, this is the same year as Fuck Compton. And it is. It's Tim Dog was in this video too, which is interesting being on the West Coast that same year.
Rough House Records put out
You're
a compilation VHS with Tim Dog and Cypress, and I don't remember.
And Tim Dog was on Rough House. Tim Dog was on Rough House in Columbia. You're right. Now that you say that.
Remembering that story, right? Though, because I heard that they were the label or something was gonna kick him out of the group because of his voice before he switched it up. That's what I heard, and I don't want to say false stuff on like. Is that correct?
They actually address that in their documentary that just came out not too long ago. They talk about his. In fact, about 3 or 4 things we brought up, they address on the rock superstar thing too. They address on that documentary that is on Paramount.
So, what is the true story about the voice?
It's kind of a longer story, but I don't remember anything about an accusation about him getting kicked off necessarily. Just the demos weren't working. But Rough House Joe, the butcher from Rough House, there is that accusation that Crisscross took Jump from House of Pain's Jump Around and put it out and that's why it ain't Joe the Biter on the second. We're on Point. They say Joe the Biter. They're talking about Joe Nicolai, the production guy from Rough House. And some of the stories in Joe and Chris are the 2 Rough House Records guy. Chris has a book out that explains some of it too. But yeah, it was such a tight-knit camp of Soul Assassins, Funk Dubious. I mean, there's so many things going on in that like few years span.
Right. A lot of dope music coming out. But yeah, How I Could Just Kill a Man, my number 1. All right, Raven, what's your number 1?
My number 1 actually ended up surprising the shit out of me. Stoned Raiders was an album I don't even remember really listening to because I didn't love Skull and Bones. So I don't really remember any of their albums after that Skull and Bones double album that until I revisited Chronologic with Corrupt on the Hook. That is such a dope ass song with a dope ass beat and such a dope fucking story that just sounds real. Like, you know, you can hear it in MB Real's voice in that song. Like he's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna tell you everything, you know. And that shit was just hard. I love that shit.
I'm so glad someone else appreciates that song like I do. Such a dope song. Like you said, it was like a peek behind the curtain of the whole Cypress Hill story. That's awesome that made your number 1. Such a fucking dope song. Surreal. Chronologic, is that your number 1?
No, but I love that song. My number 1 is from the Juice soundtrack. One of my number 1 songs by any rap group or band ever. Shoot 'em up, just shoot 'em up, yeah. That song. It's another one of those songs that's on the soundtrack, but not on any of their, even not in compilations or nothing. It's only on that soundtrack, and that is my favorite Muggs beat. That's one of those songs that the beat actually gives me goosebumps. It's so fucking hard.
Another honorable mention, that was Flirting with 10 too, because that's a dope song. And like we've established, fucking Muggs should get more respect. I mean, he's such a dope producer. And even I, you know, when I start listing producers, Muggs doesn't always come to mind, but he should. Riplak, what's number 1 for you?
All right. I was talking to my brother-in-law before this, and I was like, I'm about to do a Cypress Hill top 10. We've never talked about Cypress Hill before. I was like, what do you think my number 1 is? At the same time, we were saying hits from the bong because the first time I ever smoked a bong, we played that song, and I was with an older sibling, and I was like, I don't know, whatever, freshman or something. I was young, hanging out with older kids, and they thought I was so cool, and I was getting high, and like, yes, I always remember that day, like hits from the bong, and I always felt so cool listening to it, so I had to go with that.
And everyone's first bong hit of their life should be to that song. You did it correctly. Yeah. You did it the right way.
I did.
I'm not sure I did it the right way. That's awesome. That
no one can ever take that from me.
That's right. No one can ever take that from you. Remember that when you're down and out, you still got that memory of that hits from the bong. All right, Cypress Hill, dope group. As always, honorable mentions. If nobody talked about it, I thought it almost made my list, I just want to shout it out. Most of them got talked about, so there's only a couple. 16 Men Till There's No One Left off of 4, I really, really, really like. Dr. Green Thumb is a fun song. Riot Starter. And off the Rise Up album, the single was called Light It Up, which was really, really catchy too. I always liked that one. But otherwise, we brought up all the main classics, especially from those first, 3, 4, or 4 albums.
That What's Your Name, What's Your Number? That one's not mentioned a lot. It was done with was it Tim from Rancid? And the single had it was kind of like a ska reggae song. And
Yes.
that was off Till Death, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Stoned is the way is the walk. Stoned is the way of the walk. That's my honorable.
I loved that first album when it came out so much. Even the Spanish song where I didn't know what they were saying. I thought that shit was the bomb too. I can only tackle English. I only know about 20 Spanish words. But Cypress Hill put out an all Spanish album where they redid their biggest hits just in Spanish. But wouldn't the words not rhyme anymore? Or did they change? I mean, I need to ask someone who's bilingual. I don't expect you guys to tell me the answer. But wouldn't you think it wouldn't rhyme anymore? So they're really not rapping the song? Maybe my mind just goes down weird avenues, but
no, it works. It's done. My grandma was a Spanish teacher. It's kind of they use like different adjectives and stuff, but it still rhymes and it's still pretty much to the stories they're telling. They just reworded a little bit,
All right, Cypress Hill, classic group with another round table. Cypress Hill, all done. Until next time, have a good night, everyone. Peace.
B-boy, from the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East Coast to the West, B-boys worldwide, we supposed to be blessed. Still a B-boy, from the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East Coast to the West, B-boys worldwide, we supposed to be blessed.